Welcome. My name is Harun Rabbani, and you are watching the Harun Rabbani podcast. And we are again, amazingly, joined by Dr. Ashish Paul. Welcome back, Ashish. Good to see you.
Good evening, Harun. Good to see everybody as well who listens to us live or on replay. So, good evening.
Brilliant. So, I am very excited about this particular topic. It's about sugar craving. Why am I excited? Because I used to have, I still have them, but it's under control. Massive amounts of sugar cravings. In the UK, the way we were raised, especially when it came to weekends, Saturday, Sunday, come 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, you have a cup of tea, and you got to have, well, Asians, we have biscuits with everything, right? You have a cup of tea, a slice of cake, and throughout the week, when you have tea, you have to have biscuits to, if you're British, of course, to dunk into your tea. And so it was the done thing, it was the normal thing. But
Mm.
little did I know how much damage it was doing. So, do you want to share about the Asian culture and sugar at all? Do you want to mention so? I mean, I'm Asian, but I'd love to hear from you.
Yes, I think I'm just one of those odd people where I really don't eat much sugar. And I have always been like that. I'm more of a savory person, or eating salty foods
Mm,
has been my thing. Also, because my grandmom used to make all these, the poppadoms and everything at home. So it was all homemade
mm,
stuff. And I grew up on that and not necessarily more on the sweet stuff. I don't have a sweet tooth for myself. So I find it very hard to understand sugar craving. But craving is easy to understand overall. People where they are craving for a particular experience or food. Food is also one of those things. And we know that, of course, my mom loves sweet foods. My mom, my grandmom, my dad's dad. And so, yeah, I know that it is, I mean, mithais and all those things that people eat is like, oh my gosh, so much. And we know what it is causing.
yeah, absolutely. And let's just run with this because the thing is, yes, we can talk about all the amazing foods. I think a lot of cultures, like Turkish culture, you go to, there's a local Turkish restaurant which does some amazing foods there, and then they give baklava at the end. I'm like, I won't touch it. It's good. Well, I have touched it, I have to admit. That's how I know. It's like absolutely mouth-watering, melting. You guys, you're probably not wanting to hear that if you're trying to get rid of cravings. I'm sorry, but I've just got to share. So it is mouth-watering. It is melting, but there are consequences.
Yeah.
Sugar cravings are consequences. From your perspective, so you're an Ayurvedic doctor, a person who specializes in fertility. What have you noticed most prominent about people who've got sugar cravings?
There are a lot of reasons which we know we are going to discuss a lot of things here regarding sugar cravings. And my take on everything is holistic. How we can make it more wholesome. How can we understand our body and mind in a more wholesome way, and look for holistic solutions so that we are not just trying to suppress something, because we know this that is not a solution, long-term solution. Same for sugar cravings as well. So we cannot just suppress sugar craving and think, okay, I'm just going to suppress and not think about sugar.
Mm,
That is not going to work in the long term. We got to look at whether, where the body is. It's an imbalance, basically. Sugar craving of any kind at any space and time in your life,
mm,
it's an imbalance. Yeah. So it's an imbalance mainly of the gut. It is also an imbalance of the mind as well, how your mind is looking for that certain food. And what we know now, that people have these relationships, complex relationships with food, because of which they want actually not the food, but the emotion related to that food.
correct.
Um, so that's um, where I come from holistic point of view. What is it telling us? It's telling us that there is some kind of imbalance in the body which needs addressing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, I'll emphasize again and again, people talk about mind-body connection, which implies that there's a separation of the two, and they're not. Because if your mind is happy, your body's happy. If your body's happy, your mind's happy. I'm talking about truly balanced. not
Yeah.
rather than happiness, to be honest with you. And in the field of helping people reverse diabetes, of course, type 2 diabetes, that is, the precursor to diabetes, insulin resistance, how long does it last? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Someone can have pre-diabetes as a child, insulin resistance, I should say, as a child, because in essence, when you're taking in insulin sugar, your body produces insulin to help transport the sugar from the
Mm.
bloodstream into the cells. If they hang around in the arteries, in the bloodstream, it damages the arteries and the veins and so on. It actually causes a lot more damage than I'm mentioning. But if you've got insulin resistance, not only have you increased the likelihood of getting type 2 diabetes, and by the way, all people with type 2 diabetes have insulin resistance. And just because you have insulin resistance doesn't mean you'll get type 2 diabetes, but the chances are
Yeah.
very, very high that you'll get it. But I also want to bring to attention some of the which really doesn't scare me in the context of it scares me for the people out there in the world, which is this: cancer is a result. Insulin resistance is one of the big causes. Cancer, sugar.
Yeah.
Cancer survives on sugar. I know I'm not
Mhm.
supposed to say that, but I'm just going to say it. Alzheimer's, dementia starts off with insulin resistance, one of the major causes, PCOS, infertility. There's a whole like massive, diverse range of conditions you can get as a result of taking too much sugar. And to give you context for viewers, if you don't already know, in our body we have five, 5 liters of blood, and in a normal healthy body, you only have 5 grams, which is 1 teaspoon of sugar. I think it's 1 teaspoon. There's 5 grams of sugar, which is
Yeah.
like you just imagine you just have 1 teaspoon of sugar in your tea. What's going to happen to you? You have a can of Coke or Coca Cola or whatever, 9 teaspoons of sugar in there. And a
Yeah.
lot of people say, oh, I mean, I'm young, etc. And the challenge is that when you're young, you may not feel the consequences yet, but guess what? They build up. So, is there any particular consequences that come to mind for you that you think, okay, maybe people should pay attention to this because it's important to know. We're not here to just motivate you because we're not really here to. We're here to share with you, to educate you, and so on. It's not about motivating you. Hey, you can't, you mustn't do it, or you must do it. But it's important to have a balanced picture. What are the negatives? Have I missed anything out that might um, sugar cravings might lead to?
Well, sugar cravings as an imbalance will lead to the imbalance of hormones for women and men, of course, which will then lead on to certain other conditions, which you can obviously see, for example, acne. Youngsters getting this acne, and in men, it can be quite, again, something which you don't want to see, but it can be quite, what's the word I'm looking for? It can be really
Well, they
intense.
might, yeah, yeah. Sorry, go on. It might be
Yeah,
intense.
sorry, I just lost my word there. And it is because of the imbalance. And as you pointed out, sometimes certain habits, yes, when you're young, your body can go out of balance and come back to its balance pretty quickly. Yeah, so you can take a lot of sugar and your body still is
Mm, mm,
healthy and fit and able to deal with it. But you are setting a precedent
mm,
forever how
mm,
your body then will behave, and that is not a good precedent to set for the later ages in your life, 30 plus,
mm,
40 plus, and so
mm,
on and
mm,
so forth. So acne is one of them. Hormonal imbalances in women is another one. There may be hormonal imbalance is the cause of all sorts of um, period issues, menstrual issues. There is a link to endometriosis. PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, of course, is directly linked with insulin resistance, and we know that there is also hereditary and genetic link to diabetes as well. So it is all linked back to this sugar and sugar
mm.
imbalance. Yeah, all of these conditions.
A lot of people, like I go and speak at schools, and we're talking about to teenagers, and I've decided to educate them directly because one of the things I learned from certainly having, well, they're men now, but my boys when they're younger. So I got divorced while they were still very young. And when they were with me, they were always calm, chilled out, happy. But then when they were with their mother, they were hyper. And after a while, after maybe a few months, she said, "How is it that you control them?" I said, "I don't control them. I just don't give them chocolates. I don't give them sweets, which
Yeah.
I can't stop you from doing that." As soon as she stopped, it changed. And so when I speak at schools, one of the things I emphasize is I said, "Guys, you got to start now. Sugar
Yeah.
is a poison. It's toxic. It's a poison. It'll do you a lot of damage. Certainly more than good. Can you survive without sugar? Maybe you won't mentally. If you're an addict, you won't, might not be. You might think you can't survive, and the fact that you feel that you can't survive means you're already an addict. That's not a good sign.
Yeah.
It's it's probably the most addictive thing substance in the world in the context of the number of people who are addicted to
Sugar.
it.
Yeah.
So
And
let's
also, just to mention that sugar it's a drug. We know that sugar acts like a drug. And the threshold of taking sugar, for example, I used to take 2 teaspoons of sugar in my tea before I came to the UK. And it has been now 24 years, almost 23 years of me not taking any sugar. And I stopped from 2 to none. Yeah, because I thought it's just everybody's talking about stopping sugar. What's the big deal? So let's try. Let's see if I can stop it. And I stopped. Yeah. But what people don't realize is when you take sugar like a drug, your threshold level goes up and up and up. So if you were taking half teaspoon, then you don't find it sugary enough. You'll take a little bit more. Then you don't find it sugary enough at one, and then you take a bit more. I mean, for me, for example, I'm talking about my personal example because it's probably easier to relate.
mm,
If I take one bite, not even full chocolate, Ferrero Rocher, one Ferrero Rocher, I can only eat 1/4 of it nicely. The rest is just, okay, now I have to finish it. It's way too sweet for me. And I
wow.
know people who are not just eating one, but so many. And that is because their taste buds are developed like that. Yeah. And that is what happens when you are taking sugar from right from young age. Your body gets so used to, your taste buds get so used to that you don't even realize you're eating such sugary food, which for me is hugely sugary.
I'm guilty. I'd have those little bowls of trifle, the cheapy ones. I could eat all of it. I wouldn't. I'll throw up now. But back, even I
Yeah.
remember at university, I could eat the whole darn thing in one go. Or those chocolatey, I forget the name of it now. It's like chocolate and it's got cream in the middle. But anyway, the whole lot. Now, here's the issue. In the South Asian community,
Yeah.
type 2 diabetes is like way up there, more than I think 6 times more type 2 diabetes within the South Asian community.
Yeah.
The black community about 2.5 times higher than white community. It doesn't mean people from the white community don't have it. In the UK, we've got 4 million people with type 2 diabetes, and it's growing to
Yeah.
5 million people. So there's obesity linked to it, as well as type 2 diabetes. So please keep that in mind. Now, the question you might be asking is, how the heck do I stop it then? Now, before we say that, you might think, okay, is Haroon trying to scare me to to give up sugar? Yeah, stop it. You know,
Yeah.
the sugar trade was created by the slave trade. You know that, right? It was a
Yeah.
result of the slave trade. It wasn't, they didn't have sugar in the UK. UK, they didn't have most things like spices. They had salt, I think. They had
Yeah.
salt, yeah. They didn't have
Yeah.
pepper.
Spices came from India.
Yeah. All of them came from India, and most of Europe. But sugar came primarily from the West Indies, and it was based off the slave trade for hundreds of years. And
Yeah.
it's the same companies, same families, actually still, like Tate and Lyle, still running that industry, really.
The
And
biggest.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, so on political grounds, on health grounds, just moral grounds, you got to stop it. We complain about, when I say we, you know, as a population, we complain about the state of the world and how bad Coca-Cola, the company is, and other companies, but we're funding them. The foods that we have, we don't even know that we have cravings like processed foods. All processed foods have
Yeah.
sugar because um, when they don't put sugar in there, it tastes like cow poo, basically. So they have to put lots of sugar in them. So many reasons why, seriously, if you've got a chronic health disorder, you need to give it up. It
Stop
causes
the
so just stop it. So let's talk about body constitution. How does sugar affect the different body constitutions?
Yeah, it's chicken and the egg situation. How does the body constitution affect your predisposition to have a craving of any kind, and how does the cravings, fit into your body mind constitution? What we always talk about, I talk about, it's just natural for me to talk about your body and mind constitution, your personality type, what kind of person you are. So Vata, Pitta, Kapha, we have three type of people, and then we mix them up. We have Vata, Pitta, Vata, Kapha, Pitta, Kapha. So all these constitutions that come from Ayurvedic medicine. Um, just say that people are very unique and subjective, even if you don't want to get your head around all these constitutions, but people are just, um, every person is unique in how their body is metabolizing a particular food and how they react to that particular food. So, Vata people generally have this tendency, they are the ones who have more craving, yeah, because they have this tendency to go high and low much faster. They already have a bipolar nature because they get involved with something really quickly, then they come out of that thing really quickly. So they have a bipolar. Uh, I'm not saying they have a bipolar disorder, but they have a bipolar by nature. They are like that,
Hmm.
and because of that, they are more prone to the imbalances, right? And that is why Vata people are more erratic in whatever they do. And that's why they have more imbalance as well in what they do. So cravings, especially sugar cravings, are going to come quite, they are quite predisposed to those sugar cravings. Yeah. Pitta people, because they have little, they're little strong-willed, they are able to control it up to a point. But if, of course, there is an emotional upset or it's linked to some kind of emotional habit, then they can be also, prone to the sugar craving. And kapha, if they are prone to sugar, they are prone to in the sense that they will feel whenever they feel sad, they're going to eat sugar. So that's their relationship with sugar cravings.
And kapha people tend to be more larger, don't they, or
Generally,
more
yes.
generally?
Yeah.
So it doesn't help. Also, I want to ask. I don't think we've discussed this off air, but of your brain, the brain uses the most amount of sugar, of course.
Yeah.
Vata people who are thinkers, they think a lot. Not that others don't think. They think a lot. Are they are they consuming more amount of sugar because of their overuse, overthinking, basically?
Yes, absolutely. They one that they are overthinkers. They are warriors. What we call the worrying kind of people. Everything worries them. There are some people you may find in your circle. You may be one of them. For example, I'm not a worrying kind of person, but there are people who will worry about every single thing. Worry means that you're thinking about it. The more you will think, the more there are chances that you are going to not chances that your brain is using more sugar, because that's what brain uses, pure sugar. When your body metabolizes any food, brain uses a huge amount of sugar, which people don't realize. So whenever you're doing any kind of thinking work, whether you're preparing for exams or you're doing sitting, for some kind of competitive exams, you're going to find that you feel hungrier much faster. You may feel that your sugar cravings have gone really bad, which is what happens when people are under stress. Sugar cravings go bad because this is working much faster. So you are correct. For Vata people, because they overthink and over worry about certain things,
Hmm.
they use more sugar and they are going to find that imbalance much quicker.
The what I was saying now. So in terms of foods for the three body constitutions. So by the way, you're watching the Haroon Rabbani show with myself, Haroon Rabbani, and Dr. Ashish Paul live.
Yay!
That's the one saying yay. That's Dr. Ashish Paul. So You watch it if you're watching live. Thank you for joining us live. Hello to everybody there. I won't go through your individual names. Thank you for watching. Make sure you comment. Make sure you start. If you type in any questions you have, then I'll have a look at it. If you don't, you'll just be entertained by our beautiful looks. Besides that, please do ask questions. If you have questions, we'd really love to help you, because you know what? There are so many people whose lives are being destroyed by sugar and they don't realize it. So we mentioned, one of the things I want to say is the brain consumes so much sugar, but even the brain has limitations. You imagine it's got this two spongy hemispheres of the brain. When the insulin resistance develops there, you've got other protein functions and folding, which causes the thing to fold. I won't go into details only because I can't remember it from the top of my head. But basically, Alzheimer's, by the time you are detected to have Alzheimer's, it's
Yeah.
like your brain's been crushed and crumpled like crumpled paper, basically. It's too late.
Yes.
Same with prostate cancer, gentlemen. Your prostate will have issues 10, 20 years before it even shows up. So by the time your prostate issues show up, too late. So prevention isn't just the cure. Prevention is, if you're serious about your health, people talk about my health is my wealth. My body's a temple, but most people are treating their body like an ancient ruin. So if you're serious about it, do something about it before the damage occurs. In the UK, I know US is possibly worse. In the UK, over 60% of people who are lying in hospital beds have got conditions which are preventable. They're called chronic diseases. So sugar is a massive contributor. So let's talk about specific foods besides sugar. Let's talk about, because I was listening to a Human podcast again, and like you do as well, and they're talking about, this particular doctor was talking about how obviously we like something because something is tastes good, but then sometimes we have cravings or something that doesn't even taste that good, and one of the reasons is you might be eating something and in your stomach, sorry, it gets converted to sugar and the body loves that. Basically, you're getting a bit of a dopamine fix. And so it's recently I've seen some videos on TikTok where these guys get this packet of chili something or other and they put it in their mouth and they're like acting like men, like, hey, I can handle this, no problem. And there's this one guy, no problem for ages. And then the next video shot you see of him is lying down outside with a paramedic over his body. And then somebody else does the same. It's sugar. You're not going to have any paramedics jumping over your body or watching over you because it's not going to show up that quickly. So, what kind of foods, besides the obvious, what kind of foods are going to help people who are Vata? Let's go through the three constitutions. That will help them from your perspective, because I've got some ideas I want to share as well, from your perspective, which will help them with dealing with cravings.
Yes, of course. I mean, you have the whole list of foods which will help. But from Ayurvedic medicine and holistic perspective is you need to know what kind of foods are good for you and what are not for your constitution. So Vata, Pitta, Kapha, whatever your predominant constitution is, then you need to know which foods are good for you, which are not. And there's a whole list of it. If you want to find out, you can fill the dosha questionnaire on my website, the easiest one and probably the most extensive one. And I will send you that list, which has got all the foods in the world in 3 sections. So foods for Vata people, which are good for them and which are not good for them, and then Pitta and Kapha and so on. So you need to know which foods are good for you and which are not, according to your body, mind, constitution. And then based on that, if you then start having those foods, is when you're going to slowly balance. Now, just remember that if you have an imbalance which has been there for a long time, one, that the timeline is quite long. Second, that the intensity has been very long, that you go hyper and hypo to acute degree. You go hyper really quickly and hyper really quickly as well. There is that acuteness to your condition. Then it's going to take some good effort to balance that, to bring that sugar craving down and to bring your blood sugar level within that normal range for your body and mind. Yeah. So One of the things which is balancing sugar is the fiber, and secondly, the low glycemic index foods, which are there. Nuts are a great food if somebody is not allergic to nuts. Then they are a great food. But it's the fiber which is then going to absorb that extra sugar, which then helps your body internally. But as I have mentioned previously, also that we are not eating anywhere near as much fiber as we used to eat as hunter gatherers. So our diet is very fiberless. We are not even having, I can't remember on top of my head, I think not even 10% of the fiber that we used to eat, maybe much less even, which means we don't have that roughage which absorbs that imbalance in a way,
Mm.
right? So that's what we need in our diet. And please understand your mind body constitution and find out which foods are good for you and which are not.
It was interesting that when I was selling medical equipment back in the 1990s in the north of England, I covered basically over 100 hospitals, and I'd go and watch the operations, and they'd use the equipment that I'd bring in for endoscopy. And so colonoscopy, that means going in through the backside basically
Anus,
to
yeah.
to look at the colon, basically large intestine, was a long procedure. And it was interesting because there's different parts of the country that had kind of different dynamics. And what I found in Bradford Royal Infirmary, where massive Asian community, a high incidence of cancer. And one of the big reasons,
Yeah.
Pakistani community, chapatis, which is basically bread,
White flour,
white flour, and heavily meat-based diets as well.
red meat.
So yeah, red meat is not even chicken, but red meat.
Yeah.
And without this roughage, I mean, people don't realize, I think a lot of people don't realize the importance of the gut lining and gut bacteria. We often think we are feeding ourselves. I say this to my clients. I mean, I don't know if there's huge science behind it, but here's the thing. If you eat foods that are destructive to your body, they will support, you will have within your gut bacteria that like that kind of food, basically sugar addictive bacteria. So a lot of the times you'll have cravings. You might have parasites in your blood who are
Yeah.
consuming the bacteria. Fungi, candida, loves sugar. So
Yeah.
when you've got that, they're going to be depleting you of sugar, but then you're going to fill yourself with sugar, get a spike in your bloodstream, and then it gets depleted again. So
Yeah.
in order to change that, one of the primary things is to feed yourself fiber rich food. So a lot of the foods which are fiber rich, people who are sugar addicts absolutely hate them. I have to say, stuff like spinach, kale, carrots, beetroot, things that grow underground. All of these are full of fiber. You need to eat them. If you don't eat them, then as an example, let's say orange juice. You know when you buy orange juice without the bits, it's just pure
Yeah.
sugar. It's just
Yeah.
liquid sugar. Or when I used to have a juicing machine, loved it because it fed my addiction really. But I put all the greens in. However, I left all the fiber out. And I was wondering why I was getting a blood sugar spike eating such healthy food. So some of the fibers to is there any particular fibers that you'd recommend? I mean, myself, I recommend kale, spinach, well, the things that I mentioned. And any particular ones that you think broccoli, that maybe from a Indian subcontinent that you think, okay, eat this, eat that.
Yeah, the usual fibrous foods, but the vegetables. And the point is to eat fiber, roughage, and not to really mush it down. Because if you have mushed it down, for example, if you have put it in the blender and have really made it into a smoothie, then that fiber is gone because we need that structure, the fibrous structure. So to eat it, yeah, the kale, the broccoli, to just blanch it and eat it like that without blending it. Blending is great as well. You can have smoothies as well, which are also healthy and balanced smoothies so that you have enough fiber and fruit in it. But to actually eat the food, that's how our body is more used to. We are not used to purees. Purees is a modern concept. We are used to eating the whole food as such. That's how our gums work. That's why we also have more gum issues and teeth issues, because we are not chewing enough. We are not chewing as many foods. So that is going on a tangent. But it is to do with the fiber, eating it as it comes. Yeah. The fruits, to eat them. I mean, how many children? I know when my twins were little, I never gave them apple, for example, without a skin. Why would you do that? Skin is the one that has got all the nutrients in it, and that's what's required. So that is the fiber, and eating it like that. Yeah. So eating apple as an apple, not eating apple as a smoothie. There's a difference between the two, how our body is processing it.
Hmm.
So,
So
yeah.
if we were like one of the big industries provide medicine, we'd not be telling you this, by the way, because it's not
We're
good for our
telling you all
business.
the secrets.
Well, we're telling you all the secrets that we're giving away, that we help our clients with. I mean, when I say all, parts of it really, because there's a lot more than meets the eye. And so I used to be addicted. I was a Coke addict, Coca-Cola, that is, not the sniffing type. Just to clarify that, so I was a Coca-Cola addict for probably a couple of decades, and about 10 years ago, yes, I'm that old. I don't look it, I know. About 10 years ago, I thought, okay, what can I do? Because I've got this caffeine boost, I've got this sugar boost, but then I have a slump. And somebody recommended taking chia seeds. I thought, what the heck is that going to do? And so I started taking chia seeds with my breakfast, a tablespoon every day. Oh my goodness, it worked.
Yeah.
So chia seeds, basically, there's a number of ways to do it, but primarily you dunk it in water. You don't have to do this that way. I put it in a bit of water for a few minutes. You drink it, and it expands out. It provides huge amount of fiber. It doesn't replace. It's got many benefits, by the way, but it
Yeah.
doesn't replace all the greens that you need. So look into fibrous foods. Go on to Google, do Ashish's questionnaire. We'll put the link later on after the end of the live
Yeah.
presentation. Another area I would strongly consider, which I love, I'm just sharing with you what I love, which is this stuff like kimchi. I make my own kimchi. Sauerkraut. I make my own sauerkraut. We make our own. I don't actually make it. But when you have that fresh, it is full of fermented bacteria, full of basically everything that your gut bacteria needs.
Yeah.
And if you don't like that kind of food, you're turned off by it, the truth is you're probably a sugar addict. Because people, when you're a sugar addict like I used to be, I thought I was one exactly how you said, by the way, which is I drink, whatever drink I drank, and I need to drink some more. Once upon a time, if you went to hospital in the UK, in the United Kingdom, back in the 70s and 80s, your family would visit you, and you know what they would bring you? A bottle of Lucozade, which is pure liquid sugar. This,
Yeah.
in order for you to get better,
Red
that
Bull.
would, yeah, well, equivalent is Red Bull, which includes caffeine. So another thing to consider is this, and these are things that worked for me, by the way. This is not necessarily going to work for everybody, but I really, really think it would actually. It may not, but I reckon it would. Sleep. When I found that I've not slept enough, the following day, I feel tired. When I feel
Yeah.
tired, guess what I'm looking to do? Get a sugar
Eat.
boost.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, some people eat more. For me, anything that's chocolate a day, a can of Coke and chocolate, maybe twice a day. That's how it used to be.
Yeah.
And it's if you're not getting enough sleep, we've done a sleep episode already. If you are not getting any sleep, then you are already going in the wrong direction. Are you surprised? So don't think that the mind and the body and the spirit, your energy body, is separate. They are one. And also, a lot of people are hungry and crave sugar simply because they're dehydrated. They're thirsty.
Yeah.
So when you're thirsty, if you go to the toilet and you have a pee, you're having pee and your pee comes out yellow or orange, unless you've had vitamin C, that's a strong indicator. During the night, when we're breathing, we are breathing out huge amounts of water.
Mm.
So the first thing in the morning, drink water. So is there anything else? Because I want to go into the psychology of it in a moment. Is there anything else we should
One
be
thing I
covering?
want to mention about the cravings is that you touched upon, when you are eating a lot of sugary foods, then of course there are certain mycobacteria, fungus, which get more, you have more of them in your gut. And it's actually those microorganisms which are demanding the sugar, because that's what they are feeding on. So
Right.
you might have you, and I'm surprised how many people don't think about that and they don't get that checked. You should get your gut checked for the worms, if you are eating excessive amount of sugars, and if it is really uncontrollable for you, then get your stool checked, and so that we you can get it checked whether you have any kind of, yeah, any worms in there. But it is the micro organisms which is asking for, sugar, and that imbalance is going to take long time to, because it is very hard to get rid of fungus. It's very hard to get rid of these mycobacteria, which is just grows, and we know how the virus grows, and how these all these microorganisms, how fast they grow and how fast they actually change as well. So for that, yeah, you will have to do much more effort, but yeah, do get yourself checked for these.
Yeah, there's a lot of experts out there who are maybe nutrition experts or fitness experts or food experts or something or other. And I've heard a number of them people saying, especially with big followers in various social media platforms, is, oh, you don't need detoxification. Your body will do the job. If you're eating the same crappy foods, that's actually brought on the tapeworms, for example.
Yeah.
How, if you've got them in your body, is your body going to get rid of it? So, of course, we go the opposite extreme, which is you must detoxify. I reckon at least twice a year, if not 4 times a year. What about yourself from Ayurvedic perspective? Major detox.
Absolutely. Once a year, deworming, for example, in countries like India, it's a common practice to deworm kids, to give them certain bitter herbs so that they can, either they vomit it out or they can pass it through the stools. So that is quite common practice, which could be done every 3 months or so. And also depending on season, certain season, like rainy season, for example, is known for these. So they will be given deworming herbs in that particular season. So it is very common in Ayurvedic medicine. Detoxification, we are also talking about deworming, getting your gut cleansed.
Mm.
We have other therapies as well, much far better than endoscopy, which helps to cleanse the gut. So we do that as well in clinic.
Brilliant, brilliant. So let's talk about the psychology of addiction to sugar or sugar
Eating.
cravings. Yeah, eating sugar. And the psychology of it is this, that if you it's interesting because I mean this is purely from client work that I've done, and it looks like, and this is 2014, I've worked on the psychology of many aspects of health issues. And I'm so delighted that people like Dr. Gabor Mate has written books on it now, and I'd never heard of him until about 2 years ago. And so in terms of sugar cravings, and I was talking to a client today about this actually specifically. In terms of sugar cravings, we're craving the sweetness. We only crave something like if say for example I say, Ashish, I want some water. I mean, obviously you're far away here, but let's say we're in the same room. I said, I want some water. That presupposes I don't have water. Why would I ask for water? Can I have some water? May I have some water? Unless I don't have water.
Yeah.
And so when people are looking for, just think metaphor, I want sugar, I need sugar. That means it presupposes sugar is missing, but energetically, emotionally, it's the sweetness that's missing
Yeah.
from their life. Most kids, not everybody, most kids are born into families which, at least for a short period of time, might be 3 months for some and forever for others. But for most families, they raise kids with love, kindness, happiness until they start running around, start talking, of course. And so there's this beautiful, loving energy around them. And then one day, for whatever reason, it's gone. So the loving's gone, or the perception that people are being loving. Remember, you're growing up, so people don't express it so much, right? Family, friends,
Yeah,
and so on.
yeah,
So the perception of loving is gone. And so the sweetness is gone. And in truth, from a psychological perspective, it's not that you're looking for sweetness, it's that you're looking for the experience of being loved.
yeah,
That's so important to understand. I'm giving this super deep stuff, of course. The experience of being loved is missing. I'm not talking about, oh, I love you, you love me. No, the feeling,
yeah. Of being cared
the
for.
of being cared for. And that goes, and it might be literally people have stopped loving you. Or here's an interesting one. Or you've put up so much barriers that you actually don't recognize the loving that's coming to you.
Yeah,
The gratitude for it isn't there. It's not that you're a bad person. Don't get me wrong. Most of my clients with type 2 diabetes, so major sugar issue going on there, are extraordinarily nice. They're extraordinarily nice to everybody else but themselves.
yeah.
So think about it. Are you extraordinarily nice towards others? So that's called martyr syndrome, by the way, where you actually give so much to others, you're willing to sacrifice yourself for maybe your child, maybe your partner, maybe your friends, maybe your work. But in essence, you're giving up your life in order for them. And and such people have difficulties in looking and in receiving loving, in receiving caring. So it's not that nobody cares for you, it's not that nobody loves you, it's just that are you willing to even receive that element? And then, of course, that leads, and this is starting to get a bit complicated, not for me, maybe for you, maybe, I hope not. And so when you don't get that loving, you have this expectation that somebody will give me back something because I'm being nice. Remember, think about it. If somebody is constantly giving you stuff, there's a possibility that they want something back. So what do you think is going on when you're giving all your loving, all your attention to everybody else? That means at some point you're wanting something back. So here's what happens: expectation, which is fantasy, because it's really out of your control, it's about other people. Reality, this gap is called the anger gap, not the hungry gap or the hunger gap. This is the anger gap. So the
Right.
bigger the difference, the more angry you get. So this is what I've discovered, that people with type 2 diabetes, not all of them, have either got a lot of rage, which is obvious, or it's hidden. It's not your fault, but it's now your responsibility to shift that. Is there anything you want to add to that at all? Or any questions you have?
uh, no questions, but yes, I would add that um, the relationship that people have with foods is generally learned as a subconscious behavior, because most of the people are fed by someone. When you are born, you are not in control at that time. You're a baby up until certain age. Even when you're eating, you're only eating the things that are being made in the house. You cannot at that point choose, and your parents can only feed you the things that they know. They are not necessarily feeding you the best things that are good for you. They just know they're doing the right thing in their own mind, but it's not always good for everyone. And also, when you have larger families, it's very hard to cater for every child for their specific needs. So there is one kind of food and it is given to everyone. So that, again, it's a learned behavior which is out of your control, and certain associations or certain emotional behaviors get ingrained in those first formative years of your life. And that is where all these habits come from, because I know, for example, so many people who do not know when they are full. They don't have this satiety button. They keep eating, they keep eating, they keep eating, up to the point where they then physically are full up to here, and they think, okay, now maybe I'm full, but I don't know. And then afterwards they'll find out in half an hour when it's uncomfortable. They are feeling a little bit of discomfort, and then they know, okay, they have overeaten. They didn't know before. What was it that they didn't know before, right? So what I have found is people who were fed a lot, even out of their will, like mother's love or father's love, and they're overfeeding you and overfeeding you, not listening to your cues. So it is important for us to, as parents, to what kind of habits we have given to our children. For example, I will tell my twins, you eat but make sure you're not feeling sick. Are you okay to eat this? Eat a little bit less so that if you're then having dessert or you're having something else to eat, then you have enough space for it. You
Yeah.
must not be feeling overfull, whereas their father was different. So all these little habits that we pick up, our food is about all about habits, and that is why it's so difficult to change diet. Is because it's ingrained in how we perform, how we are as people.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to mention. That look into your past, how you were as a baby, and where do you pick up these habits from, which then become emotional habits.
And it could be a family habit or a cultural habit. So one of the things that
Absolutely.
people totally forget, they assume mom and dad's got type 2 diabetes. I'm likely to get type 2 diabetes. Well, if you're eating the same kind of nutrition and have the same habits as mom and dad, hello, what's the chances it might happen to you? Type 2 diabetes has been on massive rise after World War II, not straight after World War II, but
Yeah.
I bet you there's probably hardly anyone ever getting type 2 diabetes in the past. It's a disease of affluence. It doesn't mean if you're poor you can't get it, but it is a disease of affluence. And the other thing is, of course, culturally. So Ashish and I went to a beautiful Asian event. So it was an Indian-based event in London. And I remember there was a lady who lovely, lovely lady, seemed to be carrying a bit of weight, and it was her birthday, and they had a cake for her. I don't know. The happy birthday singing was rubbish, by the way, just to let you guys know. Hint, hint. Next time, sing properly, guys. So they had the cake, birthday cake, which is obviously full infused with sugar and Oreos and all sorts of other sugary stuff, like embedded. I'm like, Ashish and I, like, I think we wanted to run at the thought of it, but they're trying to be nice, and you, my friends, whoever, whichever organization or family or culture or community you belong to,
Yeah.
sometimes you being nice actually end up becoming the worst enemy for the
Yeah.
people you're trying to help.
Absolutely. It is. It's again, all these little habits are the ones that make you as a person. And if you really want to shift your, especially cravings, for example, that imbalance that you're trying to shift, then you got to look into these habits where their imbalance is. Is there imbalance also in terms of your lifestyle as well? Is there imbalance in terms of the foods that you're eating? Of course. Is there imbalance in your emotions as well? Are you a person who is up and down and emotionally as well, quite a lot, because that will feed into, you are up, you eat more or you don't eat at all, and then you're down, you eat more or you don't eat at all. So all these habits are really tied in with your emotions. And
Ab-
culturally, yes, I mean, like in India, in Bangladesh, in Pakistan, it's all the what is it, you can kill someone by overfeeding because
yeah,
you're showing your love, you're showing so much love. And a person like me, I cannot even eat one single more bite if I'm full. After that, you can be showing as much as love you want, but I'm not eating after that. But that's the control which we don't learn sometimes. And we
yeah,
need to. Yeah.
and it's across a number of cultures, like the Middle East culture. So,
Yeah.
what I would suggest is this: look, making better food choices is important, but a lot of people will struggle, and I'll tell you why in a second. First of all, let's get the easy bit out. If you want to find your body constitution, then make sure you come back to, if you're watching live, that is, you come back to this page and you'll find a link to that first, number one. Number two, if you want a copy of my book, 19 Ideas for Busting Sugar Cravings, yeah, I like the title myself, if then including some of the foods I recommend as well, you can get that. Of course, I recommend you download both Ashish's um, questionnaire, or not download, do the questionnaire and also get the help support she gives. Um, but the question is, why do people struggle? And you mentioned some people will stuff themselves. And I've got a friend who's emotionally eats,
Yeah.
and he's now 26 stone. I mean, he's a friend, not a client. And he spent a little bit of time and he lost 2 stones. No, 60 pounds. Yes, 2 stones approximately. So he lost that in 2 months. He's still 24 stone. The big reason is it's it's the emotional eating that's
Yeah.
destroying him. But why emotional eating? You have a satiety hormone called leptin. This leptin is released from fat cells. So it's important you don't beat yourself up if you're overweight and you've got a lot of fat cells. When it gets released, it goes to the brain to tell you, hey, I'm full. But here's what happens. If you constantly bombarding your brain with leptin, the brain goes, I don't want to talk to you anymore. There's too much of you, too much of a crowd. And so you develop leptin resistance. That means that you can stop yourself and still not think you're full because your brain does not think
Yeah.
you're full as yet. So it is so important that if you're overweight or obese, and that's extremely highly likely in society now, if you're overweight or extreme obese, then number one, stop shaming yourself. If you know somebody, family member, friend who is overweight, don't bother shaming them because it doesn't work. It actually makes it harder for them. It's
Yeah.
number one. Number two, willpower is not going to work. Willpower means, come on, I can do it. Come on, I can do it. It doesn't work. You don't need willpower to change. You need a discipline. A
Yeah.
discipline means that you do the same thing day in. It's like going to sleep at a certain time. We talked about sleeping at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Every single night you wake up at the same time. Yeah, I'm running a retreat right now, private retreat for people with type 2 diabetes. And every morning we're up already out in the fields, out up in nature at 7 a.m. in the morning, doing our meditation practice, yoga practice, and so on. So that discipline is what is needed. But before you get the discipline, if you haven't got enough reasons why you selfishly deserve a healthy body, then you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
You're going to struggle because, like, well, you don't have enough motivation. You know, Simon Sinek talks about having the big why. Well, in this case, it's not about having the big why. It's having loads of whys, loads and loads and loads of whys. If you've got enough of them, because your ego is going to, if you're on an exercise plan and you say, I'm going to integrate this into your life, or a new habit, I'm going to integrate this into my life. Here's what's going to happen. First 2 weeks, it might go well. Third, 4 week, that's when the resistance comes in. If you survive 4 weeks, and by the way, it takes 6 weeks approximately. No, not 6 weeks, 66 days. So first 21 days, next 21 days. So first 21 days, it'll be relatively easy. Next 21 days, that's where it gets really difficult, and you have to go through that phase. Last 21 days is where people get complacent, they procrastinate, and they lose it. So throughout those 66 days, your ego is going to say, hey, I don't need to lose weight. I'll be fine. Yeah, doctors will look after me. They'll put me on metformin or some other kind of drug. Or I can get that surgery for your stomach stapling. You're going to come up with excuse after excuse after excuse. And I promise you, I've worked with so many people with weight issues, with diabetes. And when I listen to what's going on, someone might say to me, I'm doing this because my family is important. And then I start asking about the family. No, the family is important. It's not at all. So we are masters at fooling ourselves, giving ourselves BS. And so what do? Well, best way to do it is get yourself a health expert, a coach, a mentor to guide you. This is why someone like Ashish, someone like myself, we don't take someone on for one session. We might do a consultation, but I don't even bother anymore. I don't think you do much as well, but I
No.
certainly don't bother for one-off session. There's no point, because in the one-off session, I'll come and do a diagnostics. You look at what's going on, and you go, oh my God, how am I going to do it? You'll never do it on your own, because I've never seen anyone do it on their own.
Yeah.
The reason you need support with experts, because when I say experts, people who are experienced. Why? Because there are people out there who read a lot of books, watch a lot of YouTube videos, call themselves experts, not qualified, and here's what they do. They often give you the wrong advice because they've not been trained in the field. So it's important you get somebody who's trained, who's experienced, who will hold your hand, help you do the right things, but also hold you accountable and say, you said you're going to do this. Why haven't you done it? So
Yeah.
you've got no excuses. So don't beat yourself up if you can't give up sugar cravings. There are things we've covered do the download the various stuff we're sharing, and then make a decision whether you can do it on your own or not. If you can't do it on your own, turn to an expert. I think I've said a lot. Is there anything else you want to add, Ashish, before we round up, before we close this episode?
Yes, absolutely. There are other additional helps, but that those will only come if when you go to a practitioner. So there are herbs that you can take to support you with while you're going through, trying to calm your body and balance it. There are therapies that can help you, mind and body therapies both that can help you with sugar cravings. But those will come in-house. Those are in-house programs. They are not. You will not be able to do them on your own. And consistency, as Harun is mentioning, is the consistency of doing the same habit every day is what is going to produce result even for cravings. Balance does not come in one day. Whatever kind of balance it is, it cannot come in one day. It has to be worked on consistently over a period of time. So same with sugar cravings. Oh, there's a question.
Yeah, there's a question from Palmy, and she's asking what herbs can we take? And just keep in mind, before you answer that question, by the way, keep in mind it is about your habits. So do not expect there's a quick fix for it.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, this is for anybody, by the way, if you're trying to give something up, if you don't address the psychological issues, that habit is going to, that psychological issue will manifest in a different form and a
Yeah.
tougher form until it feels like you're going to get slapped around with a wet fish and you wake up and you go, oh my goodness, I need to change this. So she asks, Palmy asks, what herbs can she take that will
You
help?
can take all the herbs under the sun, which will help you. But the point is, how much? What is the dosage? Is it good for your body, mind, constitution, or not? And when you should be taking them, in what combination? So go to a practitioner, have a consultation. That's my advice always for herbs. Do not do not subscribe yourself regarding herbs. There is ashwagandha, there is brahmi, there is turmeric. You will know all these herbs which are widely available. You can, order online on Amazon, and they all will work on you. They all work on everybody, but it is about finding the optimal one so that you are not going through this whole maze of herbs. So go and find, whichever practitioner you want to. Yes, we are promoting ourselves as well, so you can always come and see us, but go and see whoever you trust and want to work with them. Then get recommended a herb out of 20 herbs, one which is going to be suitable for you. And we have specific herbs to work on the sugar cravings as well. Ayurvedic herbs, Western herbs as well. But again, I don't give generalized advice ever because it can harm you.
Oh, brilliantly put! Absolutely brilliantly put. And this is so important. I will repeat again and again until it really sinks in, and it might take for the rest of my life. For some people, you've got fingerprints, set of fingerprints, 10 digits, and you've got a set of fingerprints. And there's not a single person on the planet like you, based on 10 digits. Do you have any idea how many organs you've got in your body? How many systems you've got in your body? Do you realize how many cells you've got in this body? Do you realize, have you any idea the effect of where you were born, your genetics? There's so many different variables that if you think the lottery was difficult to win, ha, you are so special, so unique. And this is why Ashish and I are not fans of saying, here's a general advice for everybody. Yes, one general advice I tell everybody: drink lots of water, get plenty of sleep. Definitely. Meditate. Definitely.
Go
But
and see a
other
practitioner. That's a generalized advice.
yeah, exactly. Brilliant. So thank you for asking that question. If anybody else is asking questions, if you've got a question, make sure you post it here and we will address it in a future episode. Might even do a special video for you. Any other final comments, and then we end the broadcast for today?
No, I think it's cravings of any kind, whether it's for a child or for a grown up. Do investigate. There is always a reason. Cravings are not normal. You may have had them forever, but cravings are not normal. Even during pregnancy, cravings are not normal. They're not natural. They have become normal, but they're not natural. So go and work with the practitioner who can then help you to balance your body and your mind.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Ashish. And thank you everyone for watching. Make sure you love, make sure you like, make sure you share, and see you
Subscribe.
subscribe. Oh, yeah, yeah. Don't forget to subscribe. Yeah. And see you all next week. Bye for now.
Thank you. Thank you, Harun. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.